Speaking of position players pitching,
See, I set you up.
you
I know what
did,
I'm
you
doing.
did. Let's transition over to my Detroit Tigers,
Woo.
who had not one, not two, but three position players pitching in the game yesterday against your Chicago White Sox in a 13-0 rout. Uh, that is the first time in Detroit Tigers history three position players have had to finish out a game, have to come into a game and finish it out for them. And really the most embarrassing loss of the season in a season of many embarrassing lows. That may have been the lowest, and I keep looking for rock bottom, and I don't know how it gets worse than that. AJ Hinch, called it embarrassing. The players had a players only meeting after the game, which was unusual, of course. It doesn't sound like it was like a yelling, screaming match or anything. I don't think people are calling each other out, but it was just kind of something that needed to be done. Looking for answers on how to fix this pathetic offense and just pathetic effort appears in the field. That's another team, my true favorite team, that is just hard to watch. The at bats are incredibly frustrating. That there's not it's not that there's no effort, but it looks like there's not, especially when you see someone like Javi Baez just flail away over and over again at the low and away slider, pulling his head off the ball every time, and it just doesn't seem to be an adjustment made by anybody. They are on pace at this point to have the worst runs per game in the history of Major League Baseball. They're at 2.71 as of today. Uh, I've seen different stats about this, so I'm not sure what's 100% accurate. I heard the 1942 Philadelphia Athletics, I believe, were on a similar pace, and now since the shutout yesterday, Tigers are now below that for the fewest runs scored. The other one was the 1969 San Diego Padres were they finished with a 289 runs per game, and the Tigers are now well below that. So we're getting into historic territory. This is not it's not your eyes deceiving you. We've never seen this low of offensive production. Uh, Tigers fans are equally as frustrated as I am. There's a smattering of boos now every time that Javi Baez comes up. Avila and Chris Ilitch, the owner and GM and owner of the team, are getting booed and now are being kind of dragged through social media and especially Detroit Sports Talk Radio today. It's just, and they have for quite some time, but I'm finally at a breaking point. I think I try to be. I have no reason to be. I'm just an asshole with a podcast, but I try to be a little bit reasonable and not reactionary, and I don't just call for people being fired or just to get the pound of flesh because I'm angry at my team and I want things to change. And people have lashed out at Javi, which is understandable. They have a 2-month relationship with Javi essentially that has been the worst version of Javi Baez that we've ever seen. So that's what Tigers fans have been exposed to. I have the benefit of being a Cubs fan. I've watched tremendous highs out of Bobby, and you can see I know what his potential is and what he typically is, and this is the worst version of it. So I think going after Javi is the wrong way to go.
Yeah, and you know what? Just move him, bat him ninth then, because you lack so much in the field when he is not in the field. Again, you didn't win any of those games, but the game one the Sox didn't score double digits because of a couple plays he made at shortstop.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it just like I watched I watched pretty much everything, but like definitely when he was not playing, there were some balls hit in the general area of shortstop that made it through that I'm like, you got to put him out there every day. I mean, if you're not hitting the ball, you got to put your best defense out on the field so you can maybe win a game 3-2 or win a game 2-1 to minimize the damage. I mean, it doesn't help that your pitching staff is in disarray except for Scoobs. And
Well, now the bullpen is starting to feel it, and the
Yeah,
overachieving replacements for the rotation are starting to show their warts. But
and you lost what? You lost what? Rodriguez for the year, right?
well, I'll get into that.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry,
I'm not sure about that.
didn't mean to jump your
Yeah.
flow. I
Well,
apologize.
getting back to your White Sox, who came into Detroit and of course swept the Tigers. They out hit the Tigers 49-25 in the series,
22
outs
hits yesterday.
outscoring them total 27-6. That was an absolute drubbing, as you guys have been doing for quite some time to the Tigers. Of course, you talked about how Jose Abreu and of course Dylan Cease absolutely own the Tigers, with Dylan
In
Cease being,
Comerica, too.
yeah, Dylan Cease being undefeated in his career, 10-0 against the Tigers. But we'll talk more about that, or we did talk plenty about that yesterday on our Sox type thing. So
Yeah, tune
we'll
in
gloss
there.
over that quickly.
Tune into all those accolades
Yeah.
over there.
But it just seems like there's something radical needs to be done. This is why I framed it
All
that
right,
way
here
at
we
the beginning of the.
go.
However, it is not original at all.
Okay.
My idea. I don't think it's going to do any good to DFA a player or send somebody to the minors, or fire the hitting coach, Scott Coolbar, whatever it is. But those are band-aids. We've seen the Cubs fire their hitting coach over and over again in their quest to regain the World Series crown post 2016. I forget how many hitting coaches they went through, and it didn't change anything. So I don't see why that would do any good to fire for the Tigers to fire the hitting coach. I'm not blaming AJ Hinch. He has enough credibility in my mind at this point that he shouldn't be on the chopping block. Although I've heard some people call into Detroit Sports Talk Radio and call for his head, and I've certainly seen it on social media. And he didn't enter as the most popular just because of the cheating scandal in in Houston, but I don't see any reason that to put the main part of the blame on him. You can't fire all the players. So if I'm not firing the hitting coach or the manager or the players, I think it's got to be Al Avila. I think I've finally reached my breaking point where Al Avila is the center of the issues that the Tigers have that have been built over the years. This culture that has created this setup where you have everyone on the team slumping this badly. This roster construction, whatever it is fatally flawed, and that has been by design of Al Avila, the ill-conceived design. He took over in 2015 for a fired Dave Dombrowski, but he was under Dave Dombrowski for 10, 15 years before that. So he's part of the previous regime. I pointed out back in, I think it was 2018, believe it or not, the Tigers finally embraced analytics and created their own analytics database called Caesar, crassly named after their owner's corporate pizza empire, Little Caesars. So they just started their analytics 4 years ago. Their department is expanded rapidly.
That could be where some of their problems are at.
Absolutely. And guess who finally decided to do that would be Al Avila. I mean, congratulations for finally getting to the party, but we're 20 years behind the curve already. And that's on him. A lot of these sins that I'm blaming him for happened, 5, 6, 7 years ago when he took over. His drafts, recently his drafts have been very, you could say there has been some impact from who he's drafted, because they're drafted number 1 overall. I joked at the time, well, I'm proud of him, but I could be making those picks. You don't have to be radically talented or insightful to be able to figure out who the number 1 pick overall should be. Spencer Torkelson is a no-brainer. Riley Green was a no-brainer. Jackson Jobe was a little bit outside the box last year, a high school pitcher, which I probably wouldn't have gone for, but he's years away, of course. Casey Mize, I bring up. I would have probably picked him as well, but there was a lot of noise out there saying the way he throws lends himself to getting injured, and now he is having Tommy John surgery out, until probably 2024 at this point. So even the obvious, bright spots of his drafts are not even, they're obvious and they're not even performing. Torkelson is a huge disappointment so far. It's only 2 months into his major league career. It's hard to blame him for that. But beyond that, there's no one coming up. No one else is coming up through that system to help out the Tigers. We have Willie Castro playing center field right now. Harold Castro is our hottest hitter right now. I mean, these guys, this is the state. We have nobody else to fill in this from the farm system, and that is an indictment of Avila. Look at the free agents. We had a promising year last year. It was a fun season, and actually 2020 was actually a little bit of fun. They're winning some games that I didn't expect them to win. They were at least entertaining. The first month of 2021 was brutal. And then the last 5 months, they had a winning record each month and gave you a lot of hope that maybe things were actually turning around. This rebuild that you can argue either started in 2015 or probably started in 2017 when all the massive assets started to be traded off. We're at least 6 years into a rebuild, and the Tigers are now on pace to win 63 games. 63 and 99 should be the record if they continue their current pace. You talk about the trades when they started this rebuild, trading Verlander and JD Martinez and everyone else. The returns for those trades have been historically bad. There's essentially no one that's turned into a major league prospect.
Right.
Daz Cameron is marginal. Jake Rogers, he was solid catching prospect and played pretty well last year until he's had Tommy John surgery. Just the returns on those trades is where a lot of a rebuild gets its momentum just was not there. With that momentum I mentioned a minute ago of 2021, we added free agents. It's like the Tigers, this was their plan. They started, to turn the corner, and they spent some serious coin in the offseason, and the free agents they got are awful. I mean, have provided almost nothing to this team this year. You look at, the aforementioned Javi Baez, what he has shown. Is he the worst hitter in baseball? I think you sent me an article on.
Oh no, I just tweeted it on Sox Type thing because of there's no way Tim Anderson was ever going to be as good as Javi Baez. Well, I think I think that ship is.
There was an argument a while ago, but yes, there's no argument to be made. If you look at his stats right now, it is horrific. I think there could be an argument to be made that he is the worst hitter in baseball right now.
Yeah, that's what that argument was in the article. I don't know that is accurate. That is.
I didn't look too deeply into it. I just saw
100% through statistics, but maybe he's probably the worst hitter in baseball based on the back of his baseball card right now. So
he's certainly the most disappointing free agent, at least in Tigers history at this point. 2.5 months in, but Eduardo Rodriguez, who you mentioned, I actually wanted to do a whole segment. Where's Wardo? He is on a leave of absence. He's on the restricted list.
He said something posted like last night that said he will not be returning this season to the team.
I have not heard that, and no one talked about that on Detroit Sports Talk Radio today. I'd like to see that.
I'll find it and send it to you. It said he has been moved to the restricted list and will not be returning to the team this season.
See, I think that would be much bigger news in Detroit. Let's table that. I'll at least address that next week. But regardless, he was on a rehab start. He had mediocre results early in the season. Then got injured. Was having a promising rehab, and suddenly he told the Tigers he could not return to the team for personal reasons. and was subsequently placed on the restricted list. AJ Hinch said he hopes he comes back. Didn't want to get into details, of course, because it is a personal issue. So nobody has any idea what the fuck's going on there, and that is unbelievable considering what the production you've got on a Javi Baez with this free agent class. Tucker Barnhart was the other piece they added. He was brought in for his defense, but
Yeah.
I have not been overly impressed with that. Even he hasn't thrown out a ton of runners. Pitch framing might be better than what they had before. I haven't looked at the numbers. That's a little bit harder to quantify, but he is one of the better hitters on the team. I think his average is in the 230s, which puts him in the upper echelon of Tigers bats. But so it's just every box that a general manager needs to check has been basically an absolute abject failure for Avila. And at some point you have to pull the plug. And I've finally reached that point where I think yesterday was the breaking point. There's never a good time to fire a general manager. It's terrible for the organization because everything that's been built is under their vision. And, he spent at least the last 7-8 years building that, and it's come to nothing. We've got the draft coming up in a month or so. And, how do you bring in a new GM to get up to speed and figure out, what they should do with that? But I think I'd rather risk that than have Avila running another draft at this point. So that's why I think it needs to happen now. I don't think it's going to. I haven't seen, any real radical action from owner Chris Ilitch. He has shown a willingness to spend money finally. That was a big change this offseason, but it made sense not to spend on a team that was obviously rebuilding until they turned the corner, which it looked like they had. But he might be very frustrated, or I'm sure he is equally frustrated with the returns on his massive investment and the general direction of the team. And just to see an entire roster that cannot hit just tells you it's systemic, it's cultural. It is not a single player. It's a culture that needs to be completely revised, and a system that needs to be a radical overhaul. So I am finally today, June 16th, calling for the removal of Avila.
Can we get Avila removed, please?
Not a bad guy. I think he's very likable. I just think the Major League Baseball has passed him by long ago.
It's amazing how quickly baseball makes people like turn on members of the organization, because you were all about Avila for the last 6 months or so.
I was cautiously that's misstating it. I was cautiously optimistic that he was turning things around. I would not say it's all about him. Or
you were like, he's no longer asleep at the wheel. He's making moves. The Tigers are heading in the right direction. They might actually win the division this year.
Did I say that? I picked them to finish third in the division, I think, if you look at this. So I think you could calm down about that shit.
I had to give you some shit.
I had gone crazy. You can give me shit about what I said about Theo Epstein.
Tigers are going to the World Series this year. I mean, it's happening.
I did get over my skis with Theo Epstein when the Cubs brought him in 11 years
well,
ago.
That was fair.
That's very different than my feelings I've ever expressed about Al.
No, you did. I mean, all kidding aside, all just giving you shit aside. I mean, and I kind of see it in the same way. I'm like, oh, maybe he isn't that bad, because the Rodriguez, I mean, again, and over time, the Rodriguez move probably will be a solid move. He's having personal issues. That to me is more important than baseball.
Absolutely. I mean, but we have no idea what that means.
It said marital. It's more spelled out that it's marital issues. So,
oh, okay. Well, this is a groundbreaking article you're referencing. I can't wait to see.
It's it's in the Detroit Free Press. The marital issues.
Okay.
As of yesterday.
Wow. Well, send that over to me. I'll figure it out. But I'll get deeper into that next.
But it doesn't say. It doesn't say. I saw an alert, and maybe I just misread it yesterday, but it's happened
before.
I swear it was on The Athletic that said Rodriguez put on the restricted list, not returning to the team this year or something like that.
Well,
But
yeah,
that,
you said that again. Let's talk about this next week. I need to see what we're talking about
but if
here.
you look up the Detroit Free Press
I
article,
will. I will. I will.
you'll
Okay, I
see
believe
it.
you.
Oh no,
Yes.
you'll just see that it's marital issues. That's all I'm saying. That's what
Okay.
they said. So
Well, back to you mentioned Tucker Barnhart. I just one little tidbit before we get off the Tigers. I think you'll find funny is that before the White Sox series, Tucker Barnhart took it upon himself to actually burn a bat in his fire pit as like a sacrificial burning of a bat to help the mojo of the Tigers. And apparently that did not work at all because their bats went completely silent against your White Sox. So the Jobu do not piss off Jobu or
well, that's
whatever
why
voodoo he was working on did not.
when you started to talk at the beginning of the segment about you're gonna have this extreme idea, I was thinking like sacrifices in the in the locker room or
We've
something.
already tried it. It doesn't work.
But then when you said it wasn't that original, I'm like, all right, but it could still be a sacrifice. He's borrowing from Major League. I don't know. Maybe they're gonna sacrifice a chicken.
We tried it and it didn't work. So now we're getting rid of Avila. So.
I mean, I said this on the Sox type thing. Folks, I couldn't even talk trash to Smitty because it was not even. It was just so bad.
Okay,
Like I
now
just
this is a pity
yeah,
party now. I don't think I
is.
could do this
Yeah,
anymore.
I mean, it was just
There
so
was not
bad.
much trash talked on either side, so you took mercy on me, but I don't think
Yeah,
I
yeah,
couldn't have responded anyway, so I don't know how
yeah.
much
What
fun
was
that
it?
would
Was
be.
one-sided trash talk, but it
It'd be like
was
you're beating up on the fat kid with asthma wearing the Babylon 5 t-shirt sitting in the corner. So that's my Dave Attell reference for the week.
yes, right.
Word Hole Media.